Hi, this is Jim with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources and Environment's Small Business Environmental Assistance Program. In this video, we will discuss a new federal regulation that affects auto body collision shops throughout the country. It's called the National Emission Standard for Hazardous Air Pollutants for Paint Stripping and Miscellaneous Surface Coating Operations, or NESHAP for short. This regulation is found under 40 CFR Part 63, Subpart HHH of the Code of Federal Regulations. If you spray apply coatings or use chemical paint strippers, it is likely that you will be subject to this new federal regulation. It's important for you to understand the new regulation because it has requirements that may affect your business, including where you can spray apply coatings, the type of filters used in your booths and enclosures, the type of spray guns you use, and how you will clean your spray guns. There are also some training requirements for your painters. Watching this video is the first step you can take to understanding the new requirement. If you still have questions about the new regulation, I will direct you to some useful resources and contact information at the end of this tutorial. This new standard focuses on 5 metals or hazardous air pollutants that can be found in the coatings you spray. Many of the requirements contained in this standard pertain to minimizing the generation of these pollutants and maximizing the capture of paint overspray. This standard does not regulate the VOC content of the coatings you use or require you to switch to water-based technologies, although we encourage you to do so. Another goal of this standard is to minimize the evaporative emissions of methylene chloride in paint strippers. If you are using strippers containing methylene chloride, I suggest you find alternatives. If you're going to continue using them, then you need to comply with the requirements contained in the standard. We have a guidance document pertaining to this which is available from our webpage. Auto body collision shops are not the only business sector affected by a NESHAP. Gas stations are subject to a NESHAP, which requires that the vapors being displaced from the underground storage tanks flow back into the tanker, dropping the load, as opposed to traveling out the vent pipes. The U.S. EPA has promulgated a NESHAP that affects your neighborhood dry cleaners. The NESHAP requires the reduction in the perchloroethylene emissions through the use of state-of-the-art dry cleaning machines. Although these machines are costly, the amount of money saved in solvent purchases each year provides for a rather quick payback. Now you may be wondering who is subject to the NESHAP for paint stripping and miscellaneous surface coating operations. Basically, any facility that spray applies coatings on motor vehicles or mobile equipment. To get a better understanding of who is subject, I need to take a minute to define the terms that are bolded here, which are spray applies, coating, motor vehicles, and mobile equipment. Spray apply means coatings are applied using a handheld gun that atomizes the coating. The NESHAP identifies some applications that are not included in this definition. For example, if your business uses only a paint gun with a cup capacity equal to or less than 3 fluid ounces, you are not subject to this NESHAP. Painting from non-refillable aerosol cans is also not subject to the NESHAP. Coating is defined as a material spray applied to a substrate for decorative, protective, or functional purposes. So this would include your primers, base coats, and clear coats, bed liners, and undercoatings. Materials such as temporary masking agents and cleaning solvents are not regulated under the NESHAP. Here are the definitions of motor vehicles and mobile equipment. As you can see, it basically includes everything on wheels. Okay, let's summarize who is subject to the rule. All stationary or brick and mortar collision shops are subject. A mobile refinisher, those going out to a customer's location, have to comply as long as they use a spray gun with a paint cup capacity greater than 3 ounces. Other facilities, such as paint training centers, like at a community college, are subject as well. Even hobbyists must comply if they paint any vehicles for compensation. If you paint more than 2 vehicles in a year without being compensated, then you are subject to the NESHAP. Now that we've determined who is subject to the NESHAP, let's get into the heart of the NESHAP, and that is what you're required to do. Now I've broken this up into general requirements and paperwork requirements. Under general requirements, we have requirements for enclosures and paint filters, the type and cleaning of application equipment, and training. Under the paperwork requirements, we'll talk about things like your notification requirements and record keeping. Let's run through each one of these. The application of coatings, including primers, onto a complete vehicle or a portion of a complete vehicle must be performed inside an enclosure consisting of a full roof and 4 walls or curtains. The enclosure must be ventilated at negative pressure, or if the booth is fully enclosed, has seals on all doors and openings, and is equipped with an automatic pressure balancing system, then it may operate at up to, but not more than, 0.05 inches water gauge positive pressure. The coating of subassemblies must be performed under the conditions I just mentioned. However, one end of the enclosure can be open with at least 3 complete walls or curtains, and ventilated such that air is drawn into the enclosure. One important aspect of the spray enclosure requirements is that after January 10, 2011, painting on the shop floor without an enclosure is no longer allowed. This includes priming. If you are operating a mobile refinishing business where you do spot repairs at the customer's location, or you need to paint when repairing a vehicle on a frame rack, the NESHAP allows you to use a mobile ventilated enclosure. The enclosure should seal around the area being coated so that overspray is retained within the enclosure and directed to a filter to capture the overspray. A couple of examples of mobile enclosures are shown here. Before I leave this discussion of enclosures, please make sure you consult with OSHA and your local building officials before installing new enclosures or making modifications to your existing booths or stations. Not only do you need to comply with the NESHAP, you also need to stay in compliance with other state and local regulations. Next, let's talk about the filter requirements. Each 3 or 4 watt enclosure must be fitted or equipped with either a water wash system or a filter system to control the overspray. Mobile ventilated enclosures must also be equipped with a filter. If using a water wash spray booth, you need to comply with the manufacturer's specifications. If using filters, they must achieve a 98% capture of the overspray. ASHRAE method 52.1 and some other parameters contained in the NESHAP must be followed to measure the filter efficiency. You do not have to conduct this test as long as you have a product bulletin from the manufacturer of your filters that specifically states that the filters were tested in accordance with method 52.1 and the NESHAP. As a reminder, the filters must be changed out before breakthrough of paint solids occurs. It is recommended you have a manometer or other similar type of pressure drop gauge to measure the resistance to the airflow across the filters, so you'll know when to make the filter change. And again, be sure to look for the ASHRAE method 52.1 test method on the product bulletin. The next set of requirements in the NESHAP pertains to the application equipment you use. The NESHAP requires that all the coating be applied using high-volume, low-pressure spray guns, electrostatic, air-assisted airless, or some other technology that is equivalent to HVLP in transfer efficiency. To determine if a gun's transfer efficiency is equivalent to that of an HVLP spray gun, the manufacturer of the spray gun must submit a demonstration to the California South Coast Air Quality Management District and receive an approval letter. Your distributor should be able to help you with selecting the proper spray paint guns. There's also requirements pertaining to the cleaning of the spray paint guns. The standard does not allow the atomization or spraying of cleaning solvent into the booth filters or outside of a container. The recommended alternatives are using a fully enclosed gun washer or manually cleaning the disassembled parts of a gun with solvent. If manually cleaning the guns, make sure the dirty solvent and rags are collected and disposed of as a hazardous waste. The new regulation requires that all of your employees that will be painting be trained. The training must consist of hands-on and classroom instruction. This slide lists what the curriculum must consist of. It is the responsibility of the owner or manager to certify that their painters have met the training requirements. After the initial certification, painters must be recertified every 5 years. Many distributors are offering hands-on and classroom training to shops for free that meet this requirement. Contact your distributor for information about upcoming classes. For additional opportunities, contact your Small Business Environmental Assistance Program. Information for how to contact your program is listed at the end of this training. The NESHAP has some paperwork requirements that I will run through next. There is an initial notification requirement that requires those subject to the NESHAP send written notification to EPA informing them that the shop is subject to the standard. This form was due in January of 2010. If you didn't submit this form, please submit it as soon as possible. It is better to submit the initial notification late than not at all. Once you are operating in compliance with all the requirements of the NESHAP, you need to provide EPA notification of your compliance status. Your Small Business Environmental Assistance Program has developed a form you can use to comply with both the initial notification and notification of compliance status. You don't have to use our form though. We developed this form to save you some time. It should take you no more than a few minutes to complete this form. Auto collision shops that do not or never will use coatings containing one or more of the targeted HAPs, including cadmium, chromium, lead, manganese, or nickel, can submit a petition to the EPA asking to be exempt from the NESHAP. You will need to provide documentation of the coatings you are using as part of your demonstration. You should talk to your paint supplier to find out if they recommend you file for an exemption. We have a petition exemption form on our website that you can use. EPA will send you a follow-up letter letting you know if your petition has been approved. The NESHAP requires you to keep records of all the following information: who was trained, when it occurred, who did the training, and what was the curriculum, as well as the product bulletin identifying that your paint booth filters are 98% efficient according to ASHRAE method 52.1. Keep copies of the notification forms you've mailed to the EPA. If you stop complying with any part of the rule, you need to identify when the deviation occurred and what corrective actions were taken to get back into compliance. Now let's talk about when you need to be in compliance with the general and paperwork requirements. The compliance dates depend on when you began coating vehicles at your shop. If your facility performed surface coating on or before September 17, 2007, or you began installing your surface coating equipment on or before September 17, 2007, then you should have submitted your initial notification by January 11, 2010. You must comply with requirements discussed in this training by January 10, 2011. And you must submit your notification of compliance status by March 11, 2011. If your facility began coating vehicles after September 17, 2007, and you started installing your surface coating equipment after September 17, 2007, then you need to be in compliance now. This concludes our tutorial on the NESHAP for paint stripping and miscellaneous surface coating operations. For more information about this regulation, contact your state's Small Business Environmental Assistance Program. I will list the contact information for each state at the end of this presentation. You can also go to our website at www.smallbiz-enviroweb.org. Click on Contacts to find the Small Business Environmental Assistance Program in your state. We hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and found it informative. Thank you.